Chapter 34: The Laws of Civilisational Survival, a Final Synthesis. Civilizations do not survive because they are powerful, wealthy, moral, innovative, or ancient. They survive because they operate within structural constraints that govern all complex societies. These constraints are not ideological. They are not cultural preferences. They are not political opinions. They are mechanical realities produced by demography, incentives, cognition, institutional evolution, and the thermodynamics of complexity. This final chapter does not introduce new ideas. It distills the entire arc of the book into its governing patterns, the rules societies obey whether they understand them or not. Civilizations that survived decline, stagnation, or collapse in the past did not do so by accident. They aligned, consciously or unconsciously, with these structural laws. Those that ignored them disappeared. Everything begins with demography. A civilization is a multi-generational project. Without children, there is no future workforce, no future tax base, no future institutional memory, no future innovation. Population size matters, but age structure matters more. When fertility remains above replacement, societies maintain a stable pyramid. When fertility collapses, the pyramid inverts. The civilization becomes mathematically unsustainable. No nation with sustained fertility below replacement has ever recovered naturally without massive external inflows or forced simplification. Numbers alone do not determine destiny, composition does. A society can lose population and survive. It cannot lose its working age base and endure. Capability declines faster than population. This is the quiet killer. The first people to leave, disengage, or delay reproduction are the most mobile, most educated, and most economically valuable. Emigration, burnout, delayed family formation, and declining institutional incentives strip the top of the capability distribution long before the demographic collapse becomes visible. Societies do not fail because they lose people. They fail because they lose the people who run them. Governments attempt to reverse this through subsidies, childcare payments, tax incentives, housing grants. These rarely work. Fertility responds to culture, not cash. Societies recover only when family formation is culturally meaningful, socially honored, and institutionally supported. When children are treated as lifestyle accessories, fertility remains low regardless of policy. Demographic collapse is cultural collapse first. Capability itself is slow to build and fast to destroy. Elite formation, craftsmanship, institutional competence, and technical mastery require generations of education, apprenticeship, and cultural transmission. They can be lost in a single generation through war, corruption, emigration, ideological capture, or declining standards. Once lost, they are almost impossible to restore without a full civilizational reset. Capability is capital. It compounds slowly and collapses suddenly. As capability declines, institutions compensate by replacing judgment with process. Tacit knowledge gives way to rules. Apprenticeship gives way to certification. Experience gives way to compliance. Audits, checklists, reporting systems, and procedural scaffolding expand. This creates the appearance of control while hollowing out competence. When process replaces judgment, decline has already begun. Bureaucracy expands as competence contracts. This pattern repeats across history. Administrations thicken not because societies are becoming more sophisticated, but because they are becoming less capable. Layers are added to compensate for lost skill. Oversight grows because trust collapses. Regulation multiplies because enforcement weakens. Eventually, administration consumes more energy than production. This is the precursor to collapse. The master constraint governing everything is simple: complexity must never exceed capability. Complex societies demand coordination, trust, and high-skill operators. When the system becomes more complex than the population can sustain, performance collapses. Infrastructure decays. Services degrade. Institutions stagnate. Politics fragments. Debt explodes. Collapse does not occur because societies are evil or foolish. It occurs because they maintain systems that exceed their human operating capacity. Simplification is the only cure, and almost no civilization chooses it voluntarily. Simplification destroys vested interests, bureaucratic empires, and elite status. It removes power. So societies delay. They preserve complexity long after they lose the capacity to operate it. Collapse then simplifies the system for them, through fragmentation, decentralization, and institutional death. Simplification is inevitable. The only choice is whether it is controlled or catastrophic. Complexity requires surplus. Economic, energetic, emotional, institutional. When surplus shrinks, complexity becomes lethal. A society with high complexity and low surplus enters a death spiral of debt, taxation, stagnation, and institutional failure. Surplus is the oxygen of civilization. Its loss always precedes collapse. Cohesion determines whether any of this can be corrected. Trust is more valuable than wealth, power, or technology. High-trust societies coordinate. Low-trust societies litigate. When trust collapses, transaction costs explode. Cooperation fails. Institutions become performative. Fragmentation accelerates. Coordination becomes impossible. Cultural fragmentation compounds this. Diverse societies can function, but only when they share core norms, rule of law, family stability, work ethic, education, institutional respect. When these diverge, coherence dissolves. Political polarization intensifies. Demographic decline accelerates. Institutions fracture along identity lines. Collapse speeds up. Legitimacy is the final gate. Legitimacy is the belief that institutions deserve authority. When legitimacy collapses, compliance ends. The state compensates with coercion, propaganda, and legal overreach. Each attempt further erodes legitimacy. Collapse occurs when rules can only be enforced through force. At that point, no policy, election, or reform can save the system. Across all eras, one pattern dominates. Civilizations rise through capability and fall through complexity. Capability drives ascent. Complexity drives decay once it outpaces human capacity. All other variables, fertility, debt, bureaucracy, elite behavior, are secondary expressions of this imbalance. Collapse is not a failure. It is a reset. It strips complexity back to what remaining capability can sustain. It dissolves unsustainable institutions and preserves what still functions. It clears space for renewal. Collapse is painful, but it is also pruning, nature's way of restoring balance. Renewal never begins at the center. The center is always corrupted by complexity and vested interests. Recovery emerges from the margins, local communities, guilds, religious structures, parallel institutions, private networks. The periphery rebuilds while the center decays. This has been true in every historical reset. Those who understand the cycle survive it. Knowledge becomes leverage. Societies, institutions, and individuals who recognize the structural pattern prepare by rebuilding capability, simplifying systems, strengthening networks, preserving knowledge, and maintaining optionality. Those who misinterpret decline as moral failure, or try to resurrect what has already died, fail. Every rebirth begins the same way, with small groups of competent people who maintain standards while others decay, who preserve knowledge while others forget, who build trust while others fragment, who master skills while others stagnate, who lead with discipline while others chase status. These people become the nucleus of the next order. All civilizations are subject to structural gravity. Complexity naturally increases. Capability diffuses. Demography decays. Institutions bloat. Civilizations survive gravity not by resisting it, but by periodically shedding excess complexity and rebuilding human capacity. They fail when they try to maintain heights their foundations can no longer support. The future belongs to those who understand this gravity and design for it. Understanding the cycle does not guarantee survival. But without understanding it, collapse is certain.